Hello and welcome to everyone listening or watching us today. We are recording this podcast in a podcast room during the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Festival. If you've never been to SEF before, know it's the celebration of the entrepreneurship spirit. Here for 2 days, the top world leaders, top entrepreneurs join to inspire and educate thousands and millions of people. Today, I have with me an amazing guest who created a great business that we will be talking about today. She has an amazing story. She's multi-passionate and she's also a best-selling author. Please welcome with me Payal Kadakia. Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome in Sharjah and welcome to the festival.
Lovely here.
Awesome. So Payal, I would really like to, because you started a business and the business grew so much, for a woman to create a business that is a tech company to reach 1 billion, this is not a story we hear every day. Mm-hmm. And people typically see the trophy, but they don't know how the story went. But before we go through the story, it's lovely to connect with the person. Yeah. So it will be good to know a little bit about your upbringing, because you have an interesting multicultural upbringing, and I would love to know more about that.
Absolutely. My childhood was really defined by education. My parents 100% decided that, for my sister and I to really succeed in America, education was going to be paramount. And so because of that, I went to a great school. They literally moved a mile away just to make sure that they were in the best school district. Mm-hmm. But the hard part about that was I went to a school where no one looked like me. Yeah. And, that was tough. I got made fun of, I got bullied. And I luckily, at a nearby town that was near me, had a huge Indian, cultural community that I was able to connect with. And most of it was through dance. And I had a dance group that I joined because it was my mom's best friend who started teaching us dance, and Indian classical and folk dance. And we ended up staying together for 15 years, the group of girls that we started dancing with. So that became like a very big defining part of my childhood in terms of community, in terms of, knowing what it feels like to be a part of a group and a team.
Yeah, of course.
And so that was really paramount. And then, I think as I got older, I think I really embraced my culture, like my South Asian American identity. I think for a long time, I sometimes wanted to hide it. But because of dance, I found that it was so beautiful. It was like, it connected me back to this place where...
Because you didn't grow up there, right?
Yeah, I didn't grow up in India. It was my way to be like, oh, this is what home is. This is what my roots are. This is actually how the women in India, did chores. Express themselves. Yeah, because a lot of the dances that we did came from that. And so it connected me back to where I came from. And once I felt that, I just always was like, this is such a deep part of who I am. And everyone should see the beauty in this, right? And it's not about being Indian, or if you're not, not Indian, anyone could really connect to this and see how beautiful it was. So that was a really big part of my childhood. It's just dancing as much as I can. I literally performed at every family function since I was probably 5 years old.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah.
3 years old?
5.
5 years
old.
I
started dancing when I was 3, but by the time I was 5, I was able to perform in front of people. And I remember every party we would go to, I would have the cassette with me that I would, bring to make sure that the DJ had the right music. And then I'd have an outfit to change into. And that was for me, every family party was sort of like an event for me, But it helped me build a lot of confidence.
And for you felt like you love this, not just this is my way to just connect with you.
It was, for me, I think what I found in it was a way to help other people find joy in their life. I felt when they watched me dance, they were transported into another world. It's kind of like if you watch beautiful. Movies or entertainment. Yeah. And so I think because I dance with a lot of expression, it's part of Indian dance. And I felt like they were transported into this other place, and it brought them joy. And I think when you feel that at a very young age, the sense of having an impact on how other people feel, it transforms you. Yeah. And I think because I felt that at such a young age, my life, everything I've ever done, companies I've started, work I do, has always wanted to recreate that feeling for other people, because it was literally the best thing you could do to give others, right? Like it was like this like mission in life that really just got me at my core. And if I wasn't doing that for other people, I felt like incomplete inside.
Yeah. Such a beautiful thing to discover at a very young age.
Exactly.
Like people take years to be able to figure that out. And since you started dance at 3 years old, how do you think this taught you anything about the dance of life?
Yeah, I think I'm always dancing through life a little bit. You know, I'm always sort of like choreographing. You know, whether it's that is planning or, you know, finding creativity. Music really is a part of my day to day. I think like life is about moving forward always, you know, and finding the beauty in the different things that are thrown at you, you know. And I think the dance of life is something I will always do until, you know, my very last day.
So when did the entrepreneurship start? Because you're not coming from an entrepreneurial family.
No.
Yeah.
So my parents immigrated from India, you know.
Yeah.
They definitely were, you know, taking risks was hard.
Yeah, of
right?
course.
Of course, for that. And, you know, it's interesting because I went to a very entrepreneurial college. I went to MIT.
Yeah.
But even at that time, I was not in that space. I was actually very connected into entrepreneurship through dance a little bit, because I was always this leader who was creating like new clubs at school around dance, or finding ways to perform, you know. So that was like my entrepreneurial effort in terms of like being able to create something from nothing. Yes. But I think when it really hit me was, and it was right before I started ClassPass. It was this time in my life where I went out to San Francisco, and this was like, you know, over a decade ago. And, you know, and entrepreneurship has like become a buzzword in like, I would say the last 5 to 10 years, you know? And so a decade ago, and actually even more than that, this was 2011, a lot of people weren't talking about it as much. But if you went to San Francisco, it was a very heavy tech culture.
Yeah.
And so I went on a trip there, and everyone was building stuff, like building apps. And in a weird way, I always thought of myself as a creative person. I knew I could execute. I knew I could get things done. But I didn't realize that was actually who I was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was actually going to be like my career path. I never thought of it that way until I had an idea that I knew I couldn't. I had
Let
to
it go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that was ClassPass.
Yeah.
So how the idea of ClassPass came to you?
So when I went to that trip in San Francisco, I gave myself 2 weeks to think of an idea. Because I remember looking around.
So it wasn't like an aha moment, nobody's using this. It was more like, I will find an idea. Wow.
Well, that was it. Actually, it started with that umbrella, right? And so it was really interesting, because I know most people don't start businesses like that, right? But what happened is, I you know, this is the way I sort of like to think, because I'm like, is entrepreneurship for me, right? I was so inspired by meeting all these people that I just started thinking, I was like, what if like I could come up with an idea, right? 24 hours later, right? I get off the plane, I come home. I'm training in ballet at the time in New York City. And I was bored of the current class I was going to, so I start to Google another class to take. And I'm like, this is so hard. Like I'm in like 100 different websites. I don't know which time is right for me, and now I've like lost track of the tabs. And that's when I was, you know, it was like that light bulb moment. And I'm not sure if it's here, but do you guys have Open Table? I don't know if it's like a reservation for food in restaurants.
It's not very common here in this region.
But I'm sure you guys have similar platforms here. But there, you know, an Open Table had just reached $1 billion valuation in the States. So I remember looking at that, and I just had this light bulb moment to say, what if I aggregated all the classes so people can book things?
100%.
And, you know, and going back to like my mission of, I had kept dancing. And by the way, it wasn't just about dance. I realized that, you know, all my friends had sort of given up on all these amazing passions in their life, right? They started working and they gave up, whether it was, you know, being an athlete or even, you know, at the time, like musicians or whatever passions they had in their life, they sort of just let go of. And here I was always like still dancing on top of my really intense full-time jobs. And so that's when I was like, hey, wait, there's something here. So I decided to pursue it further.
It's because I, like, on a personal level, I remember going, for example, you will have a membership in a specific gym. I always felt like committing to one place is boring because I also love to change.
Right.
And at the same time, they don't allow you in because so you either take the membership of let's say a gym with the classes, or you have to go pay per class. Like it was the way. And okay, if I do that, where can I find a schedule that has everything? Like how do I need to go to every single gym or studio or whatever to know what is happening now? And I always been like, there must be something for this. And when, because you also opened in the UAE a few years back, and that was like, wow, like how
there's so many studios here.
It's
amazing.
How come nobody thought about this idea before? It makes it. I personally started to be more active because of that. Because you can choose where you want to go. Even sometimes if you are not in, you can't predict all the time to be in a certain location, and proximity to certain places. This tells you I can easily say, okay, there's this class happening after an hour from here, from my office. It's super easy to do. Brilliant. And when you, let's say now you have an idea, you want to start pursuing the idea, that's a different story.
Absolutely.
So how did you, so first did you feel now you have been through the journey and you exited, so if you go back, how do you Payal, at the time, did you think you would have to go through all this? Like if you saw all this, how would you?
I mean, I knew it was going to be tough, I never thought that. And I don't sign up for easy things in my life, I think I'm built to kind of go through like the
you can see people think dances, but it needs a lot of discipline.
Everything, exactly. I have learned, to work hard in my life. I have learned to execute and, make decisions when I need to. And here I just was very, very tied to solving this problem, no matter what it was going to take. And, looking back, like, I think it's almost nice to be a little naive when you are an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because you need to have, you need to obviously, like, know what's ahead and be smart about things. But a little bit of that sense of, like, I can do this is really important, And if I look back, it's crazy, But I'm really glad I wasn't scared. And I was young. I think I was, like, 27 when I started the company. And I just went for it, and I think what gave me confidence was I started telling other people about it, and all of them were very excited. I mean, I remember I had one of my friends over brunch say, hey, like, where can I write you a check? And I was like, I hadn't even, like, created the company yet. And I was like, what? And he was like, I want to invest, And I realized in that moment, I was like, okay, like, there's a lot of people who believe in me and believe in the idea. And that was great to get me started. And, there was definitely a lot of ups and downs after that. But it gave me the confidence to always keep going, that there was a sense of a need of this. And at the same time, I felt like people believed in me to create it.
And when you built it, did you think that it will grow that fast or reach that horizon?
I mean, I wouldn't have started it if I didn't want it to be big, right? Like, I think that's...
So from the beginning, you had that intention, like...
Absolutely. I mean, it was interesting. Our first name, and I can, we've changed our name a few times. We called it Dabble NYC.
Okay.
And I remember taking off the NYC to be like, why would I just do this in New York?
Yeah.
Like, we're going global, you know? Did I think it would happen this quick? No, I don't know. I think I was really in it to impact people's lives. And I think the second you find a way to change human behavior, and that's really what I believe ClassPass did, you would never have been able to do this behavior previously. And like you said, do the discovery, right?
100%.
The discovery was the magic of all of it.
Yeah.
And, it took us 3 years really to get the product right. And the secret that we didn't even know was that it was this variety.
Yeah.
People wanted to do yoga on Monday, spinning 100%. On Tuesday, have this sense of like, oh, this is so fun and different. And fitness had never really been shown that way. And I think that was one part of it. And the other big thing is making it accessible. And, and here we are, we were just talking about how petite we are. I mean, I was that girl who was scared of gym class. Like, I I am not, and I mean, yes, I danced my whole life,
Yeah.
but I was pretty scared of lifting weights, going in a gym. I never felt like it was really for me. And I realized, fitness in general was sort of catering, especially from a price point, from all of it, to like this 1%. And if we could open it up to becoming a lifestyle for the broader market, it helps everyone.
Yeah.
And we were, I think what's also important is at this time in like 2011, 2012, all of a sudden there were all these boutique fitness classes opening up, right? A lot of people were opening up studios, new ideas, and it was creating a very fragmented universe for them, and a lot of them needed to figure out how to do lead gen because they had fixed cost businesses.
You have a double-sided platform, and a lot of the businesses also don't know how lead generation, how to do, because it's a very it's a discovery-based marketing, right? Like people can just very easily discover new places where the people, the studios, they didn't need to go and do any effort or try to do something like extra, because not everyone also knows how like you have now that you have built a community, it's a super targeted community.
Yes, it's super targeted. People are literally opening the app to know, to be
I want to do something
here.
Yeah,
exactly,
totally.
with the sense of I want to go. And so just the whole entire, business it's really, I love it till this day. Like, I mean, I use it almost daily, and I'm like, wow, I love that I'm a user and I love it. It's like, it makes you feel so good as a founder to know that people love your product and that it's very much something that gives
and
joy
I'm
to
sure
people.
like everybody uses it. It's like it becomes a daily, it's something you check. It's part of, if you really have the intention to be active, this is definitely part of like your routine. Like
it should be on your homepage of your iPhone.
It is from the best my top frequent app that I use for sure.
That's great.
So Payal, I know that you've been recognized by Fast Company as one of the 100 most creative people. And creativity, there are so many views and points about creativity. Also, sometimes it is really, I would say, boxed in a certain way. So I would love to know, how do you define or see creativity?
Such a great question. And you're right, especially coming from a very, science and business background. It took me a really long time to embrace my creative side and to realize that almost everything I've done in my life that I think is of any significance has come from probably my creative side.
Yeah.
And, how do I feel that? How does the world feel that? And to me, it really is about creating things, right? I mean, it's in the word creativity. It's about creating things that don't exist. And, for me, whether that's art or if it's a product, it all comes from this sense of wanting to build and create with the mission, right? My mission has always been really, like I said, to bring this joy and a feeling of, connection to other people. And so when I think about that, I go to the core of it, and I think that's, one of the most important things.
So basically, creation for you is creativity. When you are creating something that is impacting other people, it is creativity.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. And you, in your book, LifePass, you go deep on goal setting. And of course, with all the things you have achieved in life, I'm sure you have so much that you have shared in the book. And my question is, if you are from your experience also working with a great big team, working with so many people, what do you think people get wrong? Meaning, like, is it they don't articulate their goals in the proper way, like they don't dream big, or they just will put some goals and they don't follow through?
It's a great question. And here's the thing. I do think goal setting should begin with dreams, right? But it is the next step. There's actually, I think, a few parts of it, right? The next step is to put them into a bite-sized goal that is actually tangible, right? Because if it's not tangible, you never get started. And I think that's where like a lot of people fail. And then if people get that part, the next part of it is learning how to say no to everything else.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think...
That's a very good one.
Yes, because I think priorities, once you set your priorities and have your goals, which is great. You have it on a piece of paper, like here's what I want to do. How do you go about prioritizing it? And I think that's been a very big part of my success, is that I don't feel guilty about saying no. And I very much say yes to the things in my life that I know bring me joy and lead me towards my dreams. And I have realized that any of those trade-offs I've ever made have always been okay, like long term, because people always know, like, I am trying to create impact for other people's, right? It's not that I'm trying to do something that's vain or for money or any of that. It's because I'm truly going after something that's like great for other people. And I think if you align to that, and that's why everything for me always goes back to mission. If you can align to mission and your dreams, then if you go and articulate them well, and then you prioritize them, then you can do it. My other big thing that I talk about a lot in the book is I really believe there's a season for everything. And so you can't really, having goals that last like a year or two, it's very easy to fall off on it because you don't have a time around it. So I set quarterly goals because to me, I'm like, okay, I can
focus on this area now.
And the dream might take, a few years, but if I am figured out that the bite-sized goal is going to take, 2 months, like here's the goal of how I get closer to there. And then I can reevaluate and reassess. And I can, in some quarters, like I'm more focused on certain areas of my life. In other quarters, I'm focused on like, the other side that I wasn't, and I think that helps to give me a sense of balance too, to know that there's a season for everything and that maybe this time I can't do it all in this moment, but I'll get to it eventually.
That's such a beautiful advice, especially like with the making sure you say no to the things that this is not the right time. I think it's tough, but honestly,
it's one of the hardest things we all struggle with. It's the guilt, and
or FOMO.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to realize, like, the best life you can live is the one you're supposed to.
Yeah. You created, with the big business, of course, you had a big team and you had to set a certain culture for you to achieve that dreams, because we all know you can only grow this much, but if you want to grow this much, then you need to have a great team and a great culture. What advices or what did you really look for when you were building a team, and the type of culture you wanted to build? You built?
Yeah, so very early on, I think we were 6 people. I decided to come up with company pillars. And the reason I did that was because I had to reflect on myself and say, who do I like working with? Because at the end of the day, I have learned that I need to be able to have a team that feels close and that feels like it's people I can work with. So I had to actually look inward to say, like, what are the traits in people that I really think are paramount? And for me, it came down to 3 of them. It was growth, like people who want to always grow, who always are willing to kind of take that extra step, have that mentality of I want to do better, get better, do things more. Efficiency. Was my second one.
Of course, with the saying no and with all the goal setting, yes.
And so I love efficient people. And then my third one was positivity, because I just like working with people who are, looking at the bright side of things. Especially in entrepreneurship, you need that.
Of course.
And so those were my core pillars. And when we would interview, we would always find a way to interview about them. And one of my favorite things is that once the company did get to a bigger size, we would give away like awards every quarter on these pillars, right? And they were basically like the values. So someone would win like the efficiency award or the growth award. And
so but that's a very good point, because so many companies, and I'm sure so many entrepreneurs, even big companies, big corporations, they will have pillars or values or things that they share with everyone newly joining the company, but they don't truly integrate it to what they do.
Totally.
So when you mentioned that this is done in the interview, we look and test for that, and also that we reward people based on that. It's like you have a true framework for decision making, not creating values for just the branding out of it.
And like I said, I did it from the beginning. It's not like I did it when we were 100 people because we needed it. I mean, there was obviously some changes that happened as we got bigger, but I think it was really nice to have those core values from the beginning. And like you said, I think when people were highlighted for them too, it helped people understand what we valued as a company, right? Like this person created more efficiency by doing X, Y, and Z. It makes someone else say, oh, wait, I could potentially do that as well. And so I agree.
It's actually a strategy framework. Like if we are going through a decision making at the moment, it's like, does it fit that? It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And when you built ClassPass, you were not the face of it. So meaning in, I assume from PR, from media, people knew it's ClassPass, but not necessarily knew Payal was behind it.
Yeah, I feel like later in the journey, there was more of that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question, I think earlier on, there was also like less of a, the female founder movement, less of that. And so, I never started a company to be recognized for it. I started a company to create impact. I think what happened, and I think this is really important, is the story of what I did became really inspiring and important for other women to hear, and especially women of color. And so I think that's a big reason that I even cared to invest in any of that, was because I realized how important that was.
To inspire others as well.
100%. Really, or I wouldn't have done it, like at the end of the day, ClassPass was so viral and organically growing that I think the biggest part of it for me was, like I said, you can't be what you can't see, right? Yeah. And I think I had women who did that for me. And, and sometimes, it is hard and exhausting to find the time to do that on top of your work. But I realized I wanted other people to realize, like, they could do it too, and that was a big part of it.
So this is when you started to work on your personal brand.
Yeah, a little bit, and I think I never, and I think this day and age, it's a little bit bigger with Instagram and influencer businesses. For me, and I've talked to a few friends about this, like, I built my personal brand after I built a company,
100%.
Where I think, like, a lot of times now it goes the opposite way, which is, it works. Is that you have a pool of people to test and market with, which is great. And I always say, even for those founders, the best thing you could do is make it something that doesn't necessarily need you. Like, I really believe in this, like, whole entire idea of creating things that outlast you.
Because sometimes it's also harder to sell if it's totally your identity.
Exactly, and so... we can talk a little bit about that too, but I think when it's so tied to you, you kind of forget, like, who you are in all of that.
Oh, that's a very good one. Yes.
Yeah, especially when I was exiting ClassPass, I definitely hit that road, and I'm like, wait, who am I if I'm not the founder of ClassPass? I mean, I'll always be the founder of ClassPass, but it took me a second to just remember who I was in that process. But I think having something that can outlast you is the most important thing. And when I say that, I'm saying it should outlast your personal brand. It should outlast you, right? It should become something that is for everyone and that anyone can be a part of. And I don't know. I still believe those are the most scalable businesses at the end of the day. Yeah.
And now that you have created what you have created, you have a beautiful marriage life as well. So if I ask you now, after the checklist, what success truly means to you?
It's living by my own rules and being able to use my time the way I want to use it. And I think that, to me, is really the most important thing, is, being able to spend time with my kids when I want to. Yeah. Being able to create when I want to. Being able to, stimulate my mind when I need to. I think it's having that full control over it and no constraints. I think that, to me, is success, is not having to worry or question myself, not have imposter syndrome, any of that. But to be honest, like, success is a journey, right? Yeah. So there's moments in life that you feel successful, and there's moments in life where you feel like you failed. And I think for me, I realize as long as I am moving forward and not kind of getting caught up in anything, then I'm on the right path to whatever the idea of success is. But like I said, success is a moment in time. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's not, it's like, it's really like, the feeling is about, to me, is about feeling fulfilled. And if I feel fulfilled, I am doing things right.
So what do you think there is, if you go back in time, or if you want to give an advice to someone, your earlier, like your younger self, that something that was not given to you and now you know, what would that be?
Oh boy, so many things. Well, this is something my dad said to me, and I think is really important, is that the only thing constant is change. So always remember to stay adaptable and flexible. And I think in entrepreneurship, it's paramount. But, life ebbs and flows, you know, companies ebb and flow, your teams ebb and flow. Each day is going to ebb and flow. And I think if you can learn to know which way you're steering the ship, right? But also take those and move with it, and be okay with that, you'll be happier. And I think that's what's made me very resilient through life, is having that mentality of, I'm going to get through this no matter what, and get to the other side because I have to.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned that you love to create impact and inspire others. But where do you find inspiration?
So I feel like for me, I love experiencing how people feel, whether that's like in a show or like watching people walk around. For me, it's I really enjoy just seeing other people in their daily life.
You love to read people, learn from people.
I think like people are my way. You know, I always remember like, when I lived in Manhattan, I would walk around the city and like I'd put my headphones on, listening to music, of course. I was dancing on the streets in my head. But just seeing people's faces and expressions, like that fuels me. Like I said, is to impact other people, has always been my cornerstone. Like when I was little, my mom always said this, like I would just smile at random people on the street because I wanted them to smile back. Like I just wanted to connect with people in that way. And I think I really find that. And like, I mean, my greatest inspiration is performing. And I think I know that is because when I perform, I feel like something comes out of me. Yeah. And I feel that connection to the audience in a way that you can't recreate in any other way.
So true.
And I think that fuels me to just like keep creating more and more of that energy.
That's beautiful. And do you have like a favorite quote or a saying or a motto that you live by, or like?
So many. I don't do this as much anymore, but through my entrepreneurship journey, I used to wake up every morning and find a quote for the day.
Oh,
and I
lovely.
would post it on my like social medias.
For how long did you do that?
For like 5 years, 6 years. Like if even till this day, like if I post anything on Instagram, I start it with a quote. It just, it's like the cornerstone of who I am. And so quotes have really fueled me. And I think it's, by having that exercise, it just always kind of made me look forward. And especially if you post it on social media, I always feel like the quote keeps coming back to you because like other people share it or someone comments.
And
or
it's also very
it.
Interesting because when you told me I find inspiration in people, it's actually the quotes are like it's things that other people thought it's important to share.
To share,
and
exactly. And finding that. But one of my favorites, if I had to pick, is your greatest life is on the other side of your greatest fear.
Oh God.
And I really believe that because I think fear is one of our biggest blockers for everyone. We all have it. And if you can find a way to work through that, and I do believe it becomes a muscle. So the more you work through it, the next time it's like, oh, I'll go a little bit more. You start really being able to just push forward in such a great way. And you realize what your greatest life is. And we should all be living our greatest life.
Thank you so much, Payal. That was such a lovely conversation.
Thanks so much.
If anyone wants to reach out to you, find you, check your content, where can they go?
I'm at Payal, Payal, on Instagram.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.